everybody, and welcome to the Bodacity Show. I'm here today with the fabulous Sara Gilbert, and we're going to be talking about a great topic that I know a lot of you either are interested in or need to be interested in. It's some of the inner game of business and how we manage to get the 4 inches between our ears working so the business can work better. So welcome, Sara. I'm glad you're here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is going to be fun.
And you're zooming in from Costa Rica, where you're away for a while, avoiding winter, which is extraordinarily smart in my books. So thank you for, sorting out all of the internet issues, et cetera, and time zones to be here. I appreciate that. All right. So as you know, folks, I'm going to give you the official bio, and then we're going to find out the real juicy goods, the inside scoop from Sara after that. So recognized as one of the top 10 up-and-coming entrepreneurs in 2023 by Success Magazine and recipient of the most innovative woman in business development strategy and the best international business consultant in Canada at the Influential Businesswoman Awards. Congratulations on those. Well, I'm going to ask you a question about that later. She's also one of the very few Canadian coaches invited by Forbes to join the Forbes Coaches Council, an honor reserved for the most eminent business coaches. She's also a member of the Harvard Business Review Advisory Council and the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers. Her mission is simple: to help entrepreneurs and leaders think differently, talk differently, and act differently, so they, in return, make a difference in the world around them their way. So I love that mission. My tagline or mission statement for my group is be the difference that only you can be. So I love it when I come across other people who are in that line of work, is helping people be the difference. So welcome, and tell us, there's so many things in your bio that I want to talk about, but we also want to get onto our subject about talking about saboteurs. But before that, tell us something that would surprise people or that they wouldn't guess about you from reading your website or anything like that. And the juicier the better. You get brownie points for if it's really, really juicy, but you can just tell us whatever you want.
Okay, I don't know if it's juicy, but I'm really a highly introverted person.
Yes.
And which is people find it funny because I'm a keynote speaker, but actually a lot of keynote speakers are pretty introverted people.
Yes.
And when I was studying, I was actually studying to be a daycare worker, and I left the field of study. I changed my field of study because I was too shy to host an activity before in front of a group of 2-year-olds.
Okay,
life is full of surprises. It
is. And yes, I have heard a statistic, but I can never track down the source, that about 76% of professional speakers are introverts. But being highly introverted and actually keynote speaking is good for that, because it's kind of a one-way thing, and you don't really have to engage with people one-to-one, which is where a lot of introverts kind of struggle and have challenges or find draining. So congratulations on that. How long have you been speaking?
Oh, over a decade now.
Okay. And mostly keynotes that you present, right?
I do keynotes. I do some workshop, but the core is more keynotes in terms of speaking.
And is that all on your topic of figuring out the saboteurs in our head and overcoming them?
Well, one of my expertise is really on psycholinguistics, which is understanding the link between language and behavior, our language and our behavior, or our client's language and their behavior.
Okay.
So I speak on psycholinguistic, mindset, and business strategies.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Well, why does that work matter to you? So, I'm the why whisperer, so I got to ask you, what's your why? Why do you do the work you do?
So the tagline on my website is because so much more is possible.
Say it again.
Because so much more is possible.
Okay. So tell us what that means.
I meet so many people who underestimate what they are capable of doing. It hurts. So the reason I'm doing what I do and why I'm so driven to do what I do is people can dream bigger and act on it. I often say my life, my rules. It's not just a cute little sentence. If everybody could, more people, not everybody, because that's not going to happen, but if more people live according to their definition of a successful life, we would all be such at a greater place. But we limit ourselves. It's painful.
All right. So for you, your why is that you don't want to see people in the pain of limitation and limiting themselves because, and I'm assuming that that kind of came from you coming through that or seeing someone that you grew up with being limited in some way. Where did that kind of get its start?
So I believe that our mission comes from one of two places, something that I live that I want more people to live, or something that I live that I want less people to live.
Right.
And like many, and this will probably resonate with many, is like, I was raised in, you can't do that. That's not how it works. You get married, you go to school, white picket fence, 1.3 child, and life is hard. You got to work hard. Money doesn't grow on tree. And I was like, no, I don't want to believe that.
Yeah.
But we are raised in this linguistic construct from beliefs and patterns and old paradigm that I was like, no way, like that is not true.
Awesome. I love that. And I totally agree. I think we're sisters from different misters. My definition of your why is what you're healing from your past and what you long for your future or the future of others. So your way of expressing it is what you want more of for others or what you want less of for others is also a great way to say that. I love that.
Well, so for you, I'll put though, for you first and then for others.
Yep, I agree. And so so you mentioned linguistics and the patterns and so forth. How does that relate to the saboteurs in our head? And what do you call those saboteurs, or how do we know that's who's talking versus our common sense or our intuition or whatever? So how do we know first, how do we identify the saboteur? And then, tell us more about it.
So in all the certification that I've done in the modalities, whatever, there's really one that for me had the greatest impact, and it's called the positive intelligence. So people can Google, or maybe you can share it on the link afterwards. I'll share you. You can go on the website. It's designed by a Stanford professor, and it's to shed light on our saboteurs. So our saboteurs are these mind patterns that we have. So the quiz takes maybe 7 minutes to do, and it will identify there are 9 saboteurs that influence. Now they come in a ranking, and what we want to do is really shed light on the top 3 saboteurs. The reality is you won't be surprised about the result because we know them. Okay, but there's a difference between knowing about them and doing something about them. So these saboteurs, so there's the victim, the hyperachiever, hypervigilant, the pleaser, the controller, the restless, and I'm missing a few, but I'm sure they'll pop back in. But as people even just hear the sound, hear the names, they will know which one are saboteurs. Because these are stories that we keep on telling ourselves all the time. So one of my top saboteurs, the victim saboteur, is the one that thinks that, oh, I'm the only one who this happens to, and it always happens to me. And we all have them. And if we start paying attention to the stories that we tell ourselves, we don't need to know which saboteur exactly. We know the stories that we tell ourselves. And the stories that we tell ourselves actually influence and impact the actions that we will take or not take, because not doing something is also an action that we decide to take. So by understanding what's between where I am, where do I want? These saboteurs are there, and the stories that they tell are there, and all the micro actions that are called reactions in my world, and they're patterns that happen. So if somebody has, for example, the pleaser saboteur, well, their pattern is to say yes all the time. I want to say yes. Somebody asks something, I will say yes, no matter if I want to, no matter if it fits in my schedule, no matter what, I will say yes because I want to please. And again, many of us, we know that we have these saboteurs, but we know they're there, but we're not aware of how do they show up. And this is really where it gets really interesting, is start paying attention to the stories you tell yourself.
Mm.
And these stories are also expressions that we have. Oh, I'm busy. Keep on saying you're busy. Your brain will always say, oh, well, I got to keep her busy. Let's be busy being busy. So we want to get, this stepping back, observing ourselves. What's the story I'm telling myself? Is it true? Do I want to believe that? Because once you start observing something, it changes automatically. It's like everyone who has a child remembers when they were little, they would fall and you would go, don't look at them, don't look at them, don't look at them, because we know if we look at them, they're going to start crying, right? So, and the same thing was with our behavior. So once we look at something, once I'm aware of, I do say that a lot, either out loud or to myself. I do have the controller saboteur or the hypervigilant saboteur. Then I can start doing something about it. And these saboteurs are actually our biggest innate trait. I call them our superpowers. But they live on the spectrum. At one end, it's our superpower, and at the other end, it's actually a saboteur. And then there's a tipping point. So by doing the test, people will understand or name these saboteurs that they have. The invitation now is to see, okay, what is the superpower of that? So I mentioned one of my top saboteur is the victim. Well, the victim is somebody who feels deeply. But you know what? It's my superpower as a coach to be able to feel somebody beyond the words that they're saying or not saying, beyond what they're doing or what not doing, having that capacity to be able to push the conversation further, bring the conversation deeper. And that is what makes me an extraordinary coach. So a client comes up to me and says, oh, I'm busy, whatever. I don't go into time management because I know that time management is just emotional management in disguise. So I push the conversation further. If somebody has a hypervigilant saboteur, which is, always, making sure is everything okay? Is everything okay? I rename that saboteur to be the protector. Somebody who wants to protect, make sure they and everyone around them is protected, is okay. So in personal development, we work a lot. It's often, seeing where like naming your saboteurs or naming your patterns, which is nice. But the flip side of it is always the beauty. And that's where we want to put the emphasis. It doesn't matter which saboteur that you have. Is do we understand what is the superpower of that saboteur? And how can I double down on that superpower for the mission that I carry? So I don't know if you want me to go through the 10 quickly.
Yeah, I think that would be great. And because I'd love to hear the strength of it, and the downside of it, when the volume's turned up too high, of course, then that becomes the saboteur in the downside, and what the balancing strength or gift is in that. I think that would be very helpful. I did, by the way, put the link for the Positive Intelligence site and the quiz that you're referring to into the chat. So people, you can go and look that up, but it's basically positiveintelligence.com. And the quiz is, just scroll around, you'll find the quiz. All right, so go ahead and give us the 10. Right. I'm going to try and type really fast and put them in there if I can. Okay, so go for it.
So, okay, in any order. So the victim saboteur is our first one that we're going to work in. The victim saboteur is the one that cuts himself or herself from everyone else. For me, it always happens to me. It only happens to me. It has the capacity to feel deeply emotions. So the flip side of that one I mentioned is that capacity of empathy, that capacity of sensitivity, that capacity of being able and having the courage to go deeper in conversations, in relationships, and on there.
Mm.
And no matter what you do as a profession, that is such a huge gift of just not taking people in their head, really bringing them on things that are relevant, important for them. Our second rational is the hyper rational. So the hyper rational is it's all about logic. We forget about relationships. We're all facts and figures and studies. Very tendency to be intellectually snob. Like, I can't believe you don't know this. So the flip side of it, I called it the super connected,
Okay.
which is a superpower of being able to get and accumulate all kinds of knowledge and connecting the dot.
Mhm.
So hyper rational is one that I also carry. We carry all of them, but at different levels. So being able to take different modalities, different types of experiences, different types of expertise to help our clients. It's not just a one thing, this is how you have to do it. It's like, no, for you, let's try it this way. For you, let's try this way. Let's find different options for different solutions for a problem. That is a super connected, connects the dot where nobody else connects the dot.
Okay.
Next up, we have the controller. The controller is about want to know everything, how it's going, where's it, where are we going, da, 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 da. That is in our saboteur mode. I call them the planner.
Mm-hmm.
The planner brings clarity and direction. We know where we're going. We know things don't fall through the crack. And people around us gain clarity. We all want to have somebody who brings in clarity and who plans strategically any projects that we have or things like that, even our vacations, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So the planner is a huge added value.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we have the hyperachiever. The hyperachiever, it's all about doing. What's next? What's next? How can we do? And it is about like next goal, next target. This is when they're in the saboteur mode. In power, I call them the change maker because they make things happen. So here, the hyperachiever, instead of going wide, when we take it as a superpower, we go deep. They have a desire to change things. They have a desire to bring momentum. They have a desire to evolve and bring everyone around them with them. So huge skill. Next, we have the stickler. The stickler is this is how things are supposed to be done. Now, again, when we put that as a superpower, is that they're careful for everyone. They know where we're going to go. It's like, okay, let's make sure that this is taken care of. Let's make sure that that is taken care of. So again, they bring us what maybe the hyperachiever doesn't look, because the hyperachiever still wants to move, get stuff done. They are the ones who say, how about we look at it on this angle? How about we look at it on that angle?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about, it has to be exactly perfect. It's let's do it right.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have the avoider. So the avoider is we want to avoid people, situation, conflicts, just put it under the rug. Why? Because we want peace and harmony.
Right.
I call them the kindness. Because exactly, we all want kindness. Our planet needs more kindness. What they get to learn is you can be kind and firm. That's how you bring it as a superpower.
Mm. Cool. Like that one. Yep. Oh, did I lose you?
They bring harmony in relationships. It's actually worth fighting for because they're able to let it go. And they bring that inner peace, and everybody wants to be around them. Everybody wants to be on board. Next, we have the hypervigilant. Did I just say? I think I said the hypervigilant already, right? Yeah. Okay. I skipped that one. Sorry. Then we have the restless, which is all about.
Oh, no, you said the hyperachiever.
Hyperachiever. Okay. So hypervigilant is. Then I may have mixed two. Hold on. Hypervigilant is the glass is always half empty. Okay. That is, it's never right enough. There's never good enough, but they're also the quality control. How can we, how can we make sure that everything that we produce is at the standard that we want it to be produced?
Mhm.
They're the ones who are going to push us to get better. They are the ones like Steve Jobs of like, how can we get a phone that actually doesn't even have a button on it?
Mhm.
So they push us to see how else can we make it better? How can we be different? Next up, we have the restless. That is bouncing off from one idea to a next, to a next, to a next. Ooh, next shiny object syndrome is about the restless.
Mhm.
They have a whole bunch of projects started or ideas in their head because they have a lot of energy.
Mhm.
The restless superpower is creativity, innovation, curiosity. They are the curious ones of the bunch. What about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? Now, when we bring it as a superpower, is we tap into their curiosity. We tap into their creativity. So we want to take that energy instead of doing 1,000 things once, we channel it and we do one thing 1,000 times.
Mm.
But they are just a bubble of energy that just needs to be channeled. And once that's channeled, these guys go deep and they bring in creativity and they will bring in different ideas that we never would have thought of because they have all these things that they've seen in the past and thought about it, and now they can actually connect it.
Right.
And the last, but definitely not the least, is the pleaser. The pleaser wants to please everyone, wants everybody to get along, wants everybody to kumbaya, let's all be together. But in a saboteur mode, they will say yes to people even when they want to say no. So that's the one when we flip it, it's all about being kind. It's not about pleasing, it's about being kind. And that, as an entrepreneur, as a leader, kindness goes a long way as a superpower. So, and even without doing the test, people know and they can feel it, which are their top saboteurs. And the invitation now is like, okay, what's the flip side of that, which is actually my superpower? Then there's different things we want to do around. Is that shed light on how does the saboteur show up? So from the test, take the top 3. Those are the ones that we want to focus on. The top 3 or the one that has a greatest impact right now. Pay attention. How does it show up? How does it feel? I was talking with a client this week or last week, and his top is restless. And it's like, and you can really see it. It's like, I feel it. And I'm like, yes. So how do you feel that saboteur showing up? What are the stories, the expressions that saboteur has? There's just so much things to do. There's just so much that is restless language all the time. So take a piece of paper, split it in 2. Write on one side, what are the patterns of that saboteur? And on the other side, what's my antidote for it?
Right.
So let's say my pattern would be pleaser. So that would be my top saboteur. The pattern could be, I say yes all the time. I say yes to everyone all the time. Well, my antidote for that is telling the person, let me get back to you on that. And give yourself 24 hours.
Exactly. Well, I'd love that because I think these are great general ideas in terms of how, first of all, how to flip it, see the strength in it, and also to make some strategies like you just illustrated for ways to perhaps block, overcome, deal with, mitigate the saboteurs. Transcend the saboteurs. But so you mentioned, or it mentions in your bio, lots of different awards and accolades that you've received. Now, typically for a lot of women, especially a lot of women in business, they tend not to self-promote. or they kind of suck at it, right? They have lots of issues and stories about it, about anything related to sales, marketing, self-promotion. So what did you have to deal with in terms of your saboteurs to go out and get those awards, or to receive them, or to, create the kind of environment that would have you receiving that kind of acknowledgement and profile and fame and so forth? So what did you deal with to be able to do that? So for instance, if someone here wants to get more notice, get acclaimed, apply for awards or whatever it may take, what were some of the things that you did to counterbalance and move forward on that?
So I was really lucky and privileged. I don't think luck is the right word, but privileged that the awards, I didn't apply for them.
Okay.
They're usually nominated.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, not usually, they're all nominated.
Mm-hmm.
So different organizations, they do a shout out to their communities or their member organization, and people just mention names, and my name came about.
Okay.
But one of my top saboteurs is hyper rational.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a lot of designation, a lot of accreditation and letters under my name and behind my name. And that adds in terms of credibility for speaking engagement that I've done or things like that. So when people look at my website, they see all the letters and the designation and all of that, which then when I'm nominated for different awards, that's what they look at.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to tie it back in with the saboteurs, because people will get it.
Mm-hmm.
Saboteurs will give you success, but they won't give you happiness.
That's a great distinction.
So they brought me all the letters because I am about learning all kinds of stuff, like all kinds of modalities to be able to connect the dots in marketing and productivity and mindset and behavioral pattern and psycholinguistics and whatnot. But at one point, we need to tip it around, because otherwise, if I stay in that saboteurs, I'll still be continuing studying and getting more accreditation. It will never be enough till the day that I die.
Exactly. So, and I think that's a brilliant quote. I just wrote it down. I paraphrased it roughly, that saboteurs will bring you success, but they're also the thieves of your happiness. Because like you said, and I think that's a great example. I always have clients, or I frequently come across clients who, have 10,000 modalities or accolades or various different kinds of skills and tools in their toolkit, but they never get going because it's never enough. I need to know more. I need to have more accreditations. I need more letters behind my name. Then I'll be credible. But the then never comes. So
it never does.
What's a great way to switch that particular one? Because I think that's a very common thing, especially for a lot of women. How do you manage that saboteur who says, oh, you need one more training?
Well, first, do the quiz so you know which ones are. Because I'm a strong believer that when you name it, you tame it.
Okay.
So first, you need to know. Put a label on it, because otherwise it's unaware. You can't do anything with anything that's you're unaware of. First. Second, give an identity to your saboteurs. Give them a personality, a voice. So mine is called Susie. Susie has a polka dot dress. She speaks like this, and she has this really annoying voice. So when I was talking earlier of identifying the patterns of your saboteurs, that's it. Is you want to take those and create a person out of that, to make a distinction between that aspect of your personality and the essence of your personality.
Right.
So now when I feel Susie coming in, I'm like, all right, Susie, we're good.
Right.
That is how we transcend many of our patterns. It's stepping back, dismantling and detaching the behavior from the emotion, and understanding, oh, that's just Susie and her insecurity.
Right. So tell people where they can find out more about you and the work that you do.
My website is definitely the first place to start. So saragilbert.coach, Sarah no H, although they all drive there, but saragilbert.coach. And I actually did a masterclass on the saboteurs not too long ago, and I left it up for you, for your community. So saragilbert.coach/masterclass. You can listen to that masterclass that I hosted on what are the different saboteurs.
Okay.
How do they behave? How do they speak? To really help us identify them. And once you see something, you can't unsee it.
Mm-hmm.
Once I know Susie's there, I can't unknow it. So I have one of my clients, his saboteur, he called him the politician.
Okay.
And whenever his mind starts with like excuses and rationals, like, all right, Mr. Deputy, it's enough.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of being stuck on, I'm not enough, I need to know more, I need to do more research, and then he moves into action. He steps the deputy away, and then he steps into action.
Okay. I love it. Awesome. And I can tell you're definitely passionate about your topic. You love to help people get clear on where they're at and what they can do about the things that get in their way. So do go take the quiz. I have the link up there for you. It's at positiveintelligence.com so that you can find out what those saboteurs are. Then go and watch the masterclass. Again, the link is there, but that's saragilbert.coach, COACH, /masterclass. And that, again, the link is there. But if you're listening to this later on YouTube or whatever, you can go and find that link there. And what's one last piece of advice or thing you'd like to leave people with about how they can be more successful by tapping into their saboteurs?
Well, understanding that it's a superpower that we had as a kid. We just lost it along the way.
Right.
We owe it to ourselves and to the people around us to bring it back.
I love that. All right. Thank you so much for zooming in from Costa Rica. I appreciate it, Sara. And I hope you have a great flight back to Montreal or to Canada. And please do go and check out both the quiz and Sara's website and that masterclass so that you can not only identify it, but start to build some strategies around how to deal with that very common thing that comes up. One of the things that I think is really important is those things are simply trying to get a need met. So one of the best questions I ever find that I can ask myself is, what is the need that's trying to be met? And how can I meet that in a more powerful, productive, direct way? Because we're just human beings trying to get our needs met. So how do we do that more directly, more powerfully? And these are some great tools and tips for you on how to flip the initial impression and the limitation of the saboteur way down at that end of the spectrum, turn it up so that it's a strength, and then capitalize on that beautiful strength that you had even as a child. Thanks for the reminder, Sara. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the clarity around some of the ways to do that. And I hope you have a great week, everyone. Go be the bodacious you, all of your saboteurs and all of your light and all of it together. Go get it out in the world so that you can be the difference that only you can be. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.